Okay guys, today we're going to go over our tire machine. This is a Hunter TC 3700 and I'm going to show you how to use this. Let's just go over some of the tools you're going to need and how this operates. One tool you're going to need is something to take out the valve core out of the valve stem with, so we're going to use this tool right here. You may need a new valve stem, so we'll have one of those for you. To take off the old wheel weights, you're going to need a wheel weight hammer, a wheel weight multi-tool to do that. And if we need to remove our old valve stems, we need some diagonal cutters to cut that off, or a razor blade. But we're going to use the diagonal cutters to cut off our old valve stem. Now on the machine, let's talk about the machine real quick. For the shovel, this is what we use to break the bead on our tires. To work this, how we work this is to make the shovel come out, we push down. To make the shovel go in, we press up on the handle. When you let go, it stays in whatever position that you left it in. So make sure that you know what you're doing with the control again. Down is down, down is out, up is in, okay? This is where our pry bar is going to live. Make sure it stays there. This is a second way to break the bead, is using these rollers. We'll explain that in just a little bit. We have our pull down arm here for installing and removing the tire, and I'll show you the rest in a little bit. So let's take our tire. First thing we need to do is take out the air. So I'm going to take my tool, put it in the stem, take out the core. The other thing I'm going to do is take off this old wheel weight. We don't want to have any wheel weights on this while we're breaking the bead or trying to take the tire off the wheel. It's going to mess up the equipment and the parts on the machine. So we take our wheel weight tool, we put the hook part in the outside, the part that's the outside of the tire, and squeeze it and pull in. Check the back, make sure we got another wheel weight right here, rotate this around. Again, put that hook in, grab it, pull it to the center of the tire, and now we're good to go. So with our shovel, we're going to press this down to bring it out. We're going to get this lined up right here so the shovel meets the wheel right here. And then we're going to pull until the tire comes off the rim. Okay? I'm going to take some soap, put some inside the rim to keep it from coming back, the bead to want to come back onto the rim. Okay? And it's all the way off. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Pull it around, bring it in, get it up against the machine, get my shovel in position, press down, press up. Okay, get some soap, put it inside. That'll prevent this bead from wanting to push back. Bring it out. And just make sure it's all the way off. If it's all the way off, now we're ready to go ahead and put it on our pedestal. Now this pedestal is adjustable. We can move this up and down. It has this lock. You have to pull this up and it'll bring it down. It depends on where the offset is on the rim. If you have a lot of negative or positive offset, you can adjust this to compensate for that. Because what you want the offset to be, or the tire to be, is the center of the rollers. Because if the offset is too high or too low, it's not going to meet the rollers correctly. So you can adjust this. So what you do is you pull this center piece up, give this a little pull, and it will go into the next notch. Just make sure this disc is pushed down. Now we can go ahead and put this on the pedestal here. When you put this on, make sure this pin is going through one of these bolt holes to locate it on the pedestal. Next, we're going to take out our center lock. This is, well, on one end it's got kind of this key on this end, and then it's got a spring in this threaded section, and then we have this cone right here. To bring this in, what we can do is just spin it down if you want. Try it this way. Spin it in. Or we can pull this red handle towards the black handle and then slide it down. So generally you want to put this with the handle going towards the machine, right up in front to back. Push down, turn it and lock it in, give it a tug. Once you feel it, it's kind of locked in place, then we're in the right spot. Now what you can do is you just pull this down, the lever, and then you may have to move the tire a little bit to get it centered in the cone. But now we can turn the cone until now this is locked to the pedestal. Now to dismount our tire, what we're going to do is we're going to pull this arm down. Make sure that this piece right here, this bead lock, when you're taking the tire off, is in the up position. If it's down, it's going to make it very complicated for you to try and get this off. With your pry bar, I've got two ends here. I've got one with a little curve, little notch here, one with a flat end. You can use whatever end you'd like. I like the end with the little notch because it allows me to get underneath the bead and then pry up a little bit easier. So I'm going to push this down over the top of the duckbill, have this resting here on the rim itself, and even if this is a aluminum or alloy wheel, this won't scratch this, and that's what this is made for. So with one arm here, I'm going to press down on the bottom part, make sure I don't catch my fingers in here, but as I press this down into the drop center, pry up, you can see how the bead has come up over the duckbill here. With that, I push down on the center pedal at the front of the machine while holding the bar. And off comes the top bead. Next, we have to drop our pry bar down below the lower bead, the inside bead. What I have to do is I support this side of the tire with my body. With my other hand, I grab the tread, and as I'm prying, I'm pulling up on the tread to get the inside bead around that duckbill, and then press the pedal. Push the arm out of the way. And there's our old tire. Now, one other thing, if on the center pedal, if I push up with my foot from underneath, it will rotate in reverse, which sometimes I need to do if I get stuck on a tire that's being difficult. But I'm going to take out the old valve stem. So what I'm going to do, from down below, I'm going to just trim it a little bit. You're not going to get this all in one bite. So trim it a little bit. And there's our old valve stem. With our new valve stem right here, what we want to do is take our tool, take the core out of this valve stem right here, just unscrew this. The reason we're doing that is because when we seat the new tire beads onto the rim, when we have more air rushing in, we have a larger volume that we can put in much faster with this out than we can with leaving the core in. And that's going to help us actually push the bead out farther a little bit better. Okay, because sometimes if we just have a little bit of flow in with the valve core in, that's not going to help us with seating the bead. Taking that valve core out is going to help us put more of a volume or more of a volume of air in at a time, and look much faster, and help us push that bead to where it needs to seat onto the rim. So I like to take these out. So let's go ahead and put this new one in, and I'll show you how to do that. So our valve stem, just take a little bit of soap. I'm just going to put a little bit right here. I'm going to spread it around. That's going to help it go in a little bit, easier. With our new stem, we're going to feed it through the bottom here. We're going to take this tool, and it's got a threaded end on this end, and so we're just going to screw this on. You don't need to screw it down all the way, but give it a couple turns and it should spin on freely. If it is not spinning on these threads freely, back it off and try and spin it on again. But turn it about 2 or 3 times, bring it over, and then you want to pry this up. I'm just going to pull it this way so you can see it pop in. And there it is. Now this is popped in and is sealed to the wheel. So now it's time to install our new tire. Okay, so with our tire we're going to reinstall. Again, we're just using used tires to practice with. What we want to do is actually check the bead right here and make sure it's good, make sure there's no pieces of rubber that are torn out and that the cable in here for the bead is not exposed. If it is, that's dangerous and we don't want to put this back on. So, inspect the bead on both sides as you take it off. Make sure it's not damaged. If it is damaged, I want you to come tell me so I can get you another tire we can use. I don't want to take that risk. So if it's okay, if both beads are okay, you're going to take some soap. We're going to soap up both beads on the outside edge and on the inside edge, like this. That on both sides, flip it around. Same thing on this side. Outside edge of the bead and inside edge of the bead. Now some of you may ask, well, how much should I use? How do I know if I have enough? If you have to ask me, you don't have enough. You just keep putting it on. Put on more than you think you'll need because you probably will. And it doesn't hurt to put more on. It's going to make your life more difficult if you put less on. More is better, less is not. So, soap it up and let's install this tire back on this wheel. To put this back on, I'm going to bring my arm back down here. I'm going to hold this bead here below the duckbill here. Okay, it's going to be just like that. This edge has to be below this when we install it. It's going to be right there. So as it comes around, it's going to push the bottom of this bead underneath this lip. Holding it with two hands, keep my thumbs out of the bead, I'm going to press the bottom pedal down. Take my hands off and it should just fall down. On this side, this is called the bead lock. I'm going to flip this down and this will help hold the bead underneath the duckbill here. Now on these size tires it shouldn't be an issue putting these on, just you holding it. On low profile tires or tires where you've got a thick sidewall like run flats for example, we're going to need some other tooling to do that, and I'll do another demonstration on low profile tires later. But for our purposes, we're just going to be working on a normal size tire here. That really shouldn't be an issue. But I want this bead locked down. This is going to help you put this on. One hand is here, your fingers. My fingers and my thumb are touching the tread here. I don't have my hand here. I don't have my fingers here. Either way, I'm going to get them pinched between this piece of steel and the steel cable that's just beneath this rubber. My fingers are going to break before this steel cable or this piece of steel ever breaks. So make sure that your hands are always touching the tread and your wrists are towards the inside of the rim or pointing towards the inside of the wheel, inside of the rim. So I have one hand here, one hand here. I'm going to follow this around. And there it is. Tire's on. We press the arm out of the way. Bring our filler gauge over here, put it on the stem, and it's got a little tab here. It should lock it into place. You shouldn't have to hold it. The pedal on the side, if you push it down halfway, it will fill the tire, and we want to fill it up so the beads actually push up onto the rim. That's called seating the bead. You can see how it kind of popped up this side and then it popped down on that side. If you're doing this on brand new tires, it's not going to be that easy. You may have an issue where you're getting up to 40 pounds and this still isn't seating. If you ever have an issue like that, you let me know. Where if you're looking at your pressure gauge over here as you're filling this, and this bead is not seating on the upper outside lip or the lower inside lip, you let me know and you stop at 40. We never go above 40 psi when we're seating the bead on any tire, ever. It's very dangerous and even can cause a tire to explode. So we never go above 40 psi when we're seating the bead. So, the other thing about the pedal on this side, if I press it down all the way, it does that. And hopefully you remember that from the live demonstration. What that noise is there a bead, I call it the bead blaster. No one's using this unless you have my permission in class. This is designed to press in between the bead and the wheel when I have a bead that doesn't want to push up against the the lip here, and what this does, it pushes in a tremendous amount of volume of air very rapidly and pushes the sidewalls out this way to expand the tire and get it closer to the lip here. But make sure that this is always in its holder on the side here, and then when you're filling this, you're just applying a little bit of pressure on the pedal on the left of the machine. I'm also watching my gauge. I don't want to go over probably 30 pounds, 35 pounds as I'm filling this, and of course we never go over 40, so that should be fine, but you're going to watch the gauge as you fill it. Okay, I'm at 36 pounds right now. I'm going to take my tire tool and my valve core and get this ready. So I've got my valve core in one hand right here. I'm going to, in my right hand, since I'm right-handed, it's a little bit easier for me. I'm pinching the core to the tool. With my left hand, I take the nozzle off. Kind of hold that in place. It's not going to screw in right away, but hold pressure down on it, screw it down. And you don't need to crank down on this thing, please. Just give it a nice snug turn, and that should be fine. With this tool, we're going to go ahead and put it back on, check our pressure, and there's a little bit of air leaking out of here. That's okay. We're going to check our gauge over here, make sure we're at the right pressure. Add a little bit more. We're at 32 right now. We're going to take it up to 34. And we're at 30, 33, 34. And it depends on what tire I give you. I'll tell you what the pressure needs to be for you to complete the lab. But when I check it with my tire gauge, it needs to be at the pressure I gave you at the beginning of the lab. Once you're up to that pressure, go ahead and put your little valve stem cap back on. Unscrew the cone. Just give it a spin or two. And to release this, just again, press your red handle towards the black handle, lift up, that'll get it out of the way. Take your handle, push down, turn counterclockwise, and pull it out of the center, and make sure it goes back in the holder. Here we got our shelves, or our drawers, and then we're ready to come off. Take the tire off. And that's your lab.